Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed weather forecast. In today's weather update, we are keeping an eye on a big, massive snowstorm, possibly a historic snowstorm by early next week. But worst of all, there could be some of the coldest Arctic air ever recorded in the last 10 years as we go into the second and first week of January. So here's a look at the latest European model. This is the ECMWF, stands for European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. And this is a look at with what could happen this afternoon on the 30th of December. So the second to last day of this year. Believe it or not, I can't believe it's 2025, literally in a couple of days from making this video. And as we can see here on the forecast model, we do have another system that is moving down out of the north. This is bringing some snow across portions of South Dakota as well as Nebraska into Iowa. But this is not the biggest system that everyone is talking about. It comes by the weekend into early next week. In fact, that one could be one of the biggest snowstorms that we have dealt with in nearly a few years. And I'll show you that here in the forecast. So going forward here on the European model, that moves on through into the Great Lakes, or the southern Great Lakes into the upper Midwest. But the thing with this system is there's a limited amount of cold air, modified Arctic air. So there's not going to be a whole lot of snow once this gets into, say, Indiana and Ohio. Maybe a wet snow at the very most, but hey, it's not going to accumulate for very much, for very long, because that's going to be out and about as it goes into the Northeast. And this is for the first day of January. In fact, for New Year's Eve, looks wet for Pennsylvania, for West Virginia, for Maryland, for Delaware, for New Jersey. If you're out and about in Detroit, Michigan, as well as Indiana and Ohio, looks pretty wet. But by the time we go into New Year's Eve celebration into the day, when the ball drops at Times Square, that's around midnight, or at midnight to be exact, it's going to be raining pretty good there on Long Island as well as southern New York State, including for New Jersey. So probably a very soggy one if you're headed out and about for New Year's Day. And then that system moves on out, followed by some snow over much of the state of New York, upstate there in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, likely to get some snow. Once that gets out of here, though, there's going to be some cold Arctic air that is going to be filtering in the wake of that system, and we're going to start to see a gradual cool down initially by Saturday and by Sunday, as you can see here. But there is a big snowstorm coming, and I'm telling you all, I'm not hyping things up to get views. This could be historic. We could see some of the biggest snowfall totals from a single system in nearly 5 to 10 years. All along to go with that, we could see some of the coldest Arctic air possible with an Arctic outbreak. So two extremes buried onto one like weather pattern that is setting up. So instead of seeing record warm temperatures, you're going to be flipping the clock to the cold side, right? So you can see, here's a look at it from a perspective for Saturday afternoon. There is your snowstorm starting to develop here over the high plains. You can see the snow, the freezing rain. The freezing rain, by the way, is here in the maroonish, pinkish color. And to the south of that, you got the rain. Kind of a Neapolitan storm. You get your three different flavors of the storm. But guess what? It's going to be an exceptional, extreme Neapolitan storm. Let's go forward here. This is by Sunday morning. Look at this. You even have your fourth flavor in the mix. So you got rain, you got freezing rain, you got some sleet, and then towards the snowy side of things. And this is a very cold Arctic high-pressure system that is setting up over the northern tier of the U.S., southern Canada like Manitoba, Saskatchewan. That's going to bring down a lot of cold, dense air, right? Cold air is denser than warmer air, so it wants to flow southward because of the Coriolis force. And so that is why you're going to see these cooler temperatures. Once that system departs, it is going to get much colder. And of course, this one will have a lot more snow with it, other than our last mini storms have barely had any snow. So this one's going to be a big, different, transitional type of pattern storm. And then this is by Sunday morning, big snow, big freezing rain event. And then, of course, by the time we go into your morning commute on Monday, oh my goodness, The 6th day of January could seriously be a problem. This is 7 days out. Big time snowfall accumulations and strong winds over Indiana, over Ohio, also for Pennsylvania and New Jersey, getting a ton of snow out of this. This is bad news for your morning commute. You do not want to be driving out in this. Based on our latest Euro, we'll show you the GFS, the American model, here in a second. But look at this. Also some rainfall down to the south. Much colder air filtering in on the back side of this. And you can see that. Some lake effect snow developing over Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, Lake Superior. Going to get a lot of lake effect snow off those lakes into surrounding areas. And then maybe another storm later on in the period for southern Texas. I mean, come on. We're talking southern Texas getting snow perhaps within the next 7 to 10 days. We'll see about that. Pretty far out in the modeling, but wow, what a change to change the weather pattern, right? All right, so now what about the American GFS model? This is the 12Z output from the American model from this morning when I'm recording this video, and you can see very different solution. All right, so if we put this in, let's reference this. All right, so this is where the Euro has the system right here, right? For Sunday morning, January the 5th. This is where the system is on the GFS for Sunday morning, January the 5th. So there is definitely some disagreement here on the timing on when this actually develops. GFS has it later than the European model, has it earlier, more faster in its storm motion. But also the GFS has it just as intense. All these blue, the kind of the pink colors here indicating freezing rain, a lot of it perhaps, not enough to really knock out power to a lot of people. Southern Indiana, southern Illinois, in on the bag of heavy freezing rain and heavy snow as well. And this would be for Monday early morning. So definitely a slower output here on the GFS, but also just as impactful from both of these scenarios. Lots of snow over Indiana, over Kokomo, as well as over Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, into say Wisconsin. Boy, this would be a big snowstorm by all means, possibly a foot or more of snow in many areas, and then this goes into the Northeast by Tuesday morning. So yeah, your morning commute here does not look good at all. Does not look good. It looks terrible. Please plan to stay home if you have to. We'll keep you updated on that. This is not you will be delayed, but road closures are possible. And of course, flight delays, flight cancellations are not out of the question as well. And then for the first full week, well, by the 7th of January, by Tuesday, that system moves out, followed by much colder Arctic air. And I'll just go out through the next 10 to 15 days. Heck with it. This is probably not going to happen, but wow, what an Arctic air mass that really sets in over much of the eastern seaboard. This would be some of the coldest air for sure, possibly in about 10 to 20 years. Now, what about those snowfall totals? Well, everybody's curious about that, right? And by no surprise, everyone is. So here's a look at that from the Euro model. We'll be looking at the GFS here in a second, but you can see what it's showing. This band of heavier snowfall accumulations will be stretching all the way from Montana into from Idaho, Montana, all the way into the upper Midwest like Indiana, Ohio, as well as say Pennsylvania. And again, lake effect snow prone areas could have a few feet of snowfall. All right, that's a lot. In about 180 hours. Possibly 1 to 2 feet of snowfall is on the deck of cards, is on the table here over Missouri. If you're in southern Iowa, again, depending on where the heaviest snowfall sets up here on the Euro is going to be determining. And then, of course, maybe about a couple of feet or so over Indiana and Ohio. So, yeah, definitely a blizzard here, potentially over these areas, and eventually getting into the Northeast in the latter part of the forecast. Now, the GFS model, the American forecast, is a little bit less intense on this, but still showing quite a bit of snowfall in these areas, anywhere between maybe about, say, 6 to 12 inches. So about a foot of snow is anticipated. Now, the reason why this will be historic, or could be, is because of the amount of colder air coming in on the backside of this. Don't get confused from watching other YouTubers saying, oh, this is going to be a historic storm, in the fact that it's going to bring a lot of freezing rain, snow, and strong winds with it, but also it's going to drag in a lot of colder air. We'll be showing you that here in a little bit. All right, So now looking at the European model as far as the freezing rain amounts, and this is pretty alarming. This is quite concerning, okay? You can see right here, anywhere between about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch. Now, these specific freezing rain totals here, don't pay much attention to those because it really is not about the accumulation here. It's about right now where this is going to set up, all right? And this band, anywhere in this band could have freezing rain potential. But yes, if you see 3/4 of an inch, some areas here could see up to 1 inch of freezing rain. That will be a cataclysmic, apocalyptic type freezing rain event. Widespread power outages, cars spinning out of control, trees coming down, power lines coming down, power grid failures as well. This would be a very big disaster in this narrow corridor, all right? But let's not worry about 1 inch of freezing rain right now, but I'm guessing between about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain, and that's enough to really cause a lot of problems, okay? And so now taking a look here at the sleet totals in this same area, anywhere between about 1/10 to maybe 1/4 of an inch of sleet. So not only are we going to see freezing rain, but the sleet is also going to be a concern on top of snow. So a wintry mixed mess here across the upper Midwest area, southern Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, as well as in central Missouri and Kansas. So now that we talked about that, actually, you know what? I forgot to show you all the GFS here. What does the GFS show about the freezing rain? Pretty similar amounts here, anywhere between, again, that 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, possibly locally higher in some areas. Looking at the freezing rain total here on the GFS forecast, you can see similar amounts between about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch on that. Of course, rain is going to be to the south of that, anywhere maybe between about a 1/2 an inch to maybe 1 inch of rain is possible. South of where, if there's any snow at all or freezing rain, you'll be south of that. That's where you'll only get rain, and you can see maybe up to 1 inch. Okay, so now the biggest concerning aspect to all of this will be the temperatures. We're going to see much colder air coming in out of the Canadian Prairie, all right, from Alberta, Canada, British Columbia, very historic cold Arctic air. This could cause a lot of problems, actually will cause a lot of problems at this point, because we know pretty well that there is going to be some of the coldest temperatures that we've ever seen in about a few years, possibly longer than that in some instances. So looking at the Euro here, let's go to this afternoon. You can see temperatures not so bad, but let's fast forward this, all right? Let's go all the way into Wednesday. You can see already the colder air building in. You could handle 0-degree temperatures. That's not a big problem at all. You all up there in North Dakota are used to this. In Alberta, Canada, you're pretty much used to this, but watch what happens. It gets too cold. This is from the Euro. This is Friday morning, and you can see for Friday morning, it does get colder here. -10, -15 degree temperatures up there in northern central portion there. Devil's Lake, if you're in Minot, Minot, something like that. Gotta get my words straight here sometimes, right? But you get the idea. Up in Canada is where the coldest air is going to be. And then look at this. It's going to be even colder by Saturday morning. It gets colder and colder and colder. And yeah, you welcome maybe -25-degree temperatures on the Euro in North Dakota. And then it really spreads. Look at this. All the way down into the Great Lakes region, the northern plains. Going to be very cold, including the Northeast. But that's not all. Once that secondary system moves on through, it's going to drag in even colder air behind it. Look at this. For Monday morning next week, 7 days from now, you could have temperatures between -10 to -30 degrees below zero. Yeah, below zero. We're not talking above zero. Below zero. Going to be excessively cold. And then look at this. I mean, by Tuesday morning, if this pans out, you have temperatures in around 0 degrees or colder in central Missouri and northward. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is on a historic level, and this could even get worse. By 10 days from now, by Thursday, January the 9th, look at this. Portions of, say, St. Louis, Missouri could be as cold as -20 degrees. North of that, say, portions of Minnesota could have temperatures as cold as -30 to -40 degrees during the overnight hours. That is deadly. That is unsurvivable. You can't be out in that because we haven't even looked at wind chill values. Here's a look at your wind chill values for Thursday and for Friday. You can see, and this is for the weekend. Look at these wind chill values. -50 degrees? Are you kidding me? -50 degrees in the upper portion of the U.S. here, the upper 48 states, there'll be some very cold air, and then it gets colder and colder and colder. I mean, this is just deadly right here by Thursday. Wind chill values could feel like negative 30 degrees across the upper Midwest, like Indiana, Ohio, as well as the northern plains. This is the sort of thing that could lead to frostbite on exposed skin as soon as 5 minutes, maybe even sooner than that, and this could continue even beyond that. All right, so that's a look at the temperatures, extreme cold Arctic air coming in. When we look at this from a temperature anomaly perspective, you can see below average temperatures already this weekend. So yes, finally winter is coming for good. And then continuing with winter all the way into January the 8th. Look at this. Temperatures are going to be anywhere between 20 to 50 degrees below average. That is insane, including for Indianapolis. Man, southern Indiana. Really concerning here. Temperatures 40 degrees below average. Record low daytime highs and record low nighttime lows. Possibly on a monthly perspective or on a monthly time scale, perhaps. And this continues all the way into literally I'll just go out to 10 days, right? That's really all how far I'm going to go. So all the way out to 10 days, perhaps through the middle of January, temperatures can be historically cold. Not only that, let's look at the GFS. What does the GFS tell us? The GFS is also showing a more concerning scenario here. By the 9th and the 10th of January, temperatures here anywhere between, say, 30 to 50 degrees below average. I mean, come on, look at northern Florida. Temperatures historically cold there. And if you want to know how cold that is, well, look at this. Overnight or daytime highs, I should say, in northern Florida might stay in the mid to upper 20s with overnight lows possibly near the single digits. That is unbeatable, unbelievable. Just wow. That's all I got to say. That is pretty concerning on the GFS standpoint. So now, why is it going to be this cold? Well, actually, you know what? Let's just use the GFS for the heck of it, right? The euro is, you know what the euro does sometimes, right? Underplays this a little bit. Not that I'm hyping this up, but we need to hype this up a little bit because there's consistency on the models. I've seen this already for a few days or for like the last 4 or 5 days. It's showing this pattern set up. As we look forward, there's your trough in the east. So again, when there's a trough in the east and ridge in the west, we get this northwesterly flow. That brings in this colder air. You all know what happens, right? Northwesterly flow equals extreme Arctic air masses moving in from the north. And then look at what happens. This continues all the way through day 7, all the way to day 10. Look at this trough, this polar vortex. So instead of the polar vortex around the North Pole, the Arctic Circle, the polar vortex is going to come to you in the Great Lakes as well as the Northeast. And this doesn't seem like a whole lot, but wow, this is a big trough here. And I'm just going to go into fantasy land. If this happens, not trying to sneeze here, this would be historic. This trough right here, 492 decameter trough in the Great Lakes region. That is extreme. That is beyond anything that we could ever imagine. And if we look at the 060 run, it's been showing that too. Still extreme trough in the northeast versus ridge in the west. This is an extreme weather pattern shift coming. The polar vortex coming way down to the south. And that's what's going to cause a lot of the mayhem with extreme Arctic air mass, extreme blizzards, and freezing rain concerns in the Midwest with that snowstorm that we talked about this weekend and early next week that could wreak havoc on your travels. But anyways, if you found this video really helpful, detailed, and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel right now. You guys are awesome. You guys have been supporting the channel for a long time since I started this channel. So please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up button, so the like button, and also leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what your thoughts about this video are, what you want me to do to improve the videos, and everything for the future. So anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with you more tomorrow. I'm going to try to upload now every single day since we're headed into the new year. That's my New Year's resolution, to upload on the channel every single day regardless of weather patterns. Even if I'm tired or not, I'll be uploading at least every day. That's the goal. That is the goal at least. So anyways, thank you for watching. See you back here tomorrow.